Hello guys, today we're going to learn about the right to know, all in regards to lab safety. You should have already reviewed these vocab words, but in case you haven't, make sure you understand what these words mean before you start today's lesson. Material Safety Data Sheet is MSDS, reactive, corrosive, combustible or flammable, inhalation, toxic, and ingestion. What is the right to know? So here's what it is basically. The right to know is a law that states that every person has a right to information about materials in their workplace that may be hazardous. This is a federal law, so a law that was made in Washington, D.C., and applies to all states. For example, if you work in a factory where they use dangerous chemicals, it's your employer's job to tell you about those dangerous chemicals. How does this apply to you? Well, as a student, the school is your workplace. So this means you have a right to know if there are hazardous materials in this building. I will tell you if we work with materials that may be hazardous. And in case you're wondering what hazardous just means dangerous in any way. So even something that if you got it on your skin could cause a rash, that would be considered hazardous. So what are these things called MSDS? An MSDS, it's an acronym for a material safety data sheet. It contains important information about hazardous substances. There is an MSDS sheet for every chemical substance that has potentially hazardous ingredients. Now, our chemistry teacher, Dr. May, has a paper copy of all the material safety data sheets for every chemical we have here at Howard. But because you all have iPads, an easier way to access an MSDS is actually just with Google. So I can look up MSDS for basically any chemical. A chemical, I'll do mouthwash. Mouthwash is a chemical, right? Look up MSDS for mouthwash. Here it is. I click it. And here's the material safety data sheet. It tells me the name of the product. It tells me what it is chemically. It tells me it's not irritating to the skin. So if I got mouthwash on my skin, it shouldn't affect anything. Ingestion of large amounts, that means swallowing large amounts, may produce signs of stomach irritation. So there is some danger or hazard involved there. But literally any chemical in the world, you can Google the name of the chemical with the letters MSDS, and you should be able to find its material safety data sheet. Continuing on. On a material safety data sheet, you're going to see the chemical's appearance, its ingredients, its physical and chemical characteristics, like whether it can catch fire, aka it's flammable, whether it could explode. You're going to learn about any physical hazards on there, any health hazards, as well as any emergency and first aid procedures, as well as any special protection information. In order to summarize everything on a material safety data sheet on a label on some sort of material, you're going to see this thing called an NFPA diamond. You can see it right here. It's always going to be white, blue, red, and yellow. I do know my colors. Whatever's on the blue box right here tells you about if there are any health hazards or health dangers. Whatever's on the red diamond here tells you how flammable the chemical is. Whatever's on the yellow diamond tells you how reactive it is. So could it react with other elements or other chemicals? And the white one is just any special hazard info you need to know. It's always going to be numbered 0 to 4. If it's a 0, it means it's not dangerous at all. If it says a 4, it means it's pretty dangerous. For example, for this guy right here, if this guy's a 4 and it's a 4 health hazard, it's going to be a pretty dangerous chemical. To help you understand it a little better, here you have it broken down. So a 4 on the blue diamond means that it's too dangerous to enter vapor or liquid. If it's a 1, it's slightly hazardous. If it's a 3, it's extremely dangerous. Use full protective clothing. Same with number 4. Remember, flammability means is it able to catch on fire? If it's a 0 right here, it will not burn. If it's a 1, it must be preheated to burn. So it can burn if it's hot, right? It goes all the way up to if it's 4, it's extremely flammable. It gets near a flame, it's going to burst into flames. For the yellow one, it's going to be reactivity, right? So if it's a 0, it means it's normally stable, which means it's not going to react with anything. If it's a 1, it's going to be unstable if heated. So if you heat it up, it might cause a reaction to take place. If it's all the way up to a 4, it means it may detonate. So detonate means it could explode. So you need to vacate the area, leave the area if anything gets exposed to fire. And of course, down here, it would just be any information that might need to be written out. So what I want you to do on the notes you're taking right now, right here you see an NFPA diamond for the element phosphorus. Based on what you saw on that previous slide in the video, go ahead and tell me what type of hazards you'd expect to see for this phosphorus chemical. Take about 15 seconds to do that. Pause the video and come back to the video. So what rights do you guys have as students? You as a student have the right to know if you'll be using hazardous substances. You have the right to see an MSDS sheet for any substance we use in class. You have the right to ask any questions about the material you work with, and you have the right to a safe working environment. But you also have responsibilities, and as a student, you're responsible for listening to or reading all information about the substances, following all instructions regarding each substance you use, and you need to notify, it says Mr. Brewer, I should say Mr. Filsick, notify Mr. Filsick if there are any spills or problems with these substances. Remember, it is your responsibility also to maintain a safe workspace for you and your group members. So you shouldn't do anything in the lab that might endanger you or other people in the class. In order to protect yourself, we have some things in class we use to ensure that you stay safe. All 5 of those things are listed right here: safety glasses, a fire blanket, a fire extinguisher, an eye wash station, and a fume hood. What I want you to do is pause the video, and you can stand up out of your seat if you need to, but I want you to try to locate all 5 of those items around the room. Pause the video and go. Now that you've found all those items around the room, what do they do? So safety glasses obviously are used to protect your eyes. You'll always be using those in lab. An eye wash station is used for flushing out your eyes if you get some sort of nasty chemical in your eyes. Flush it out with water, of course. A fire blanket, if you ever catch fire, a fire blanket can extinguish that fire. A fire extinguisher, of course, can extinguish any fires that aren't on a person. And lastly, the fume hood in back removes vapors from chemicals from the room. So if chemicals are evaporating and that whatever is evaporating is toxic, we can put it in the fume hood and it'll take those vapors away, so it won't harm us. Safety glasses, of course, wear glasses to protect your eyes from reactive or corrosive chemicals. Some chemicals will react with your eyes and can cause burns or possible blindness. Use the eye wash station to rinse chemicals out of your eyes to minimize damage. Of course, the eye wash station probably won't be needed as long as you're wearing your goggles or your glasses. Fire blanket, fire extinguisher. Some materials are combustible, which means they could ignite on fire, and will ignite if there is an open flame touched to them. Keep your workstation clear to prevent fires and notify Mr. Filsick immediately if there ever is a fire. And lastly, the fume hood. To prevent the inhalation of chemicals, the fume hood will be used. Some chemicals are dangerous to breathe in and can irritate your nose, throat, or lungs. These chemicals will only be worked with safely under the fume hood, where vapors are moved out of the room. Lastly, on chemical labels, not only will you see the NFPA diamond, but you'll also see warning labels that provide really important information for you. Words like caution, warning, or danger. Always read the label before you begin a job using a potentially hazardous chemical. If it says caution, it's a low hazard. It could be dangerous, but probably not too dangerous. If it says warning, it's a greater hazard than a caution. If it says danger, that's the highest level of hazard. And if it says poison, that means you're dealing with a highly toxic chemical. Remember, toxic means poisonous. So you're dealing with a highly toxic chemical. So you need to have caution. To end this class, all science students are required by law to take the hazardous communication test and score a 100% each year. Later on in class, you'll be taking this test, and you have to take it again and again until you get 100. That way, we, as staff here at Howard High School, know you're set to be safe in the lab, and that the rest of the class will be safe as a result. Thanks, and hope you enjoyed this video.